thanks for the lovely warm introduction. As we heard there, my name is Mark Brumpton and I am a solution consultant for the Salesforce.org team. And with me here as well is Yang, who is also a solution consultant on the same team. And we'd love to get started and show you how to use the nonprofit cloud that we have to show you today. Before we actually do that, with all the software that we provide, because we're a publicly traded company, please make any purchasing decisions based off commercially available product. With that, I'd love to thank you for your time today. Obviously, it's lunchtime for everyone here now, and we really, want to appreciate that you're stepping away and watching something at the same time. There is the chat box available, so if you think of anything or want to ask anything, please feel free to use that. And then we've got a Q&A section at the very end. But just love to thank you for the important work that you guys are doing, especially now as your organization's work is more critical than ever. So as I mentioned, Q&A is at the end. Put your questions in the chat. I'll start with who we are from a Salesforce.org perspective, what we've heard in the industry. So, different messaging from our customers, from the publications that we are involved in as well in this industry, and then how we actually solve those things that we've been hearing. And we'll actually see the first step of how we solve that in the live demonstration that Yang will be walking us through. So, there's a bit of terminology that we've talked about already in terms of CRM and a platform. So these are two terms that were probably thrown about quite a lot. And this really is something I'd love to just touch on before we get into who we are as Salesforce.org. And if we think about like a small not-for-profit who may be maintaining spreadsheets and jotting down notes about beneficiaries and donors, it may be a simple process now, but as the organization grows, it'll quickly become, apparent that it's not scalable, and information and processes become siloed. So this is where that CRM term comes in, and CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. But at Salesforce, it means so much more than that. So in terms of Salesforce.org, I'd love to just quickly introduce what we represent. And so we really represent the social impact center of Salesforce. And we have over 50,000 nonprofits globally using our solutions, which is over a quarter of our entire customer base. And I'd love to focus on some local examples where we've proven our #1 value of trust, innovation, and customer success so that nonprofits can provide a greater impact. And so a lot of these images on the screen right now are probably very familiar to a lot of you. But we also work with a wide range of organizations, from those just in the local community to those globally recognized brands like RSPCA and UNICEF. And coming off a challenging year, it's been even more important to work together to support one another and to share best practices. So having such a large group of organizations on our platform, we're able to take those learnings and then create that product that meets your requirements. So let's take a look at what we've heard recently. So the pandemic has obviously changed a lot about how we work, how we interact with one another. We might do an event like this in person if we could, but even checking into a supermarket, who would have thought we would have needed technology to do that in our lifetimes? And so we actually did a nonprofit trends report, and in that report we found that the top 2 changes that nonprofits made to tackle the pandemic were moving to digital and investing more in technology. So, that example of that small nonprofit, perhaps using spreadsheets, getting the basics right and freeing up staff from perhaps paper-based administration tasks and being able to manage new operating models. And that's why Salesforce, working alongside our community, created the Salesforce Customer 360. But also, what best practice looks like. So we listen to our community, we join the same memberships, and we build our learnings into our solutions, as I've mentioned. And in that fundraising world, people know who's who. They talk to each other, and they get access to the same resources. They've been in this role for quite a while, and they know how the industry works. And Salesforce is here to help achieve that best practice and scale it. So how do we do that? How do we achieve these things I'm mentioning about and scaling? That's with that platform that we've basically called the Nonprofit Cloud. And so today we're focusing on fundraising, but this platform also has many other basically lenses and solutions on there in terms of program management, grants management, marketing, and engagement. And it really allows us to have that customer 360-degree view, putting everything in one place. And this is all built on what we call the Nonprofit Success Pack, or NPSP, which is an open source industry standard data model with intelligence built in, built for the nonprofit community, but importantly with the nonprofit community. That helps you manage your income streams, outbound grants, and programs all in one place. So what we've planned to do today, and then amongst the next couple of months, is create this 3-part series. And so today we're going to be focusing on a crawl example, and then the next month will be like a walk, and then finally a run. So let's get the basics right today, and show you how we can re-engage with some existing donors that might have lapsed. And later, let's next month go to the walk. How do we enhance that donor engagement? And then finally to the run and advancing your mission. So with that, I might just pass over to Yang, who's going to now kick off into the actual live demonstration.
Thank you, Mark. And also thank you again, everyone, for your time today. So just a bit of housekeeping. I apologize, just before we started, my dog wanted to sit on my lap. So if you hear barking, if you hear meowing, that's my cat in the background as well. All of the comforts of working from home. So with today, we will run through a demonstration pretending myself being a fundraising manager with Project Charity, a fictitious nonprofit organization. So today we want to show how we will re-engage with lapsed donors, as well as how I will start my day with the command center, quickly accessing a report to identify lapsed donors, reviewing the success of my appeals, entering gifts from the return appeal slips, and lastly, a holistic view of our donor 360 experience. So let's really quickly go into the Nonprofit Success Pack. So upon logging in, I am greeted with my personalized homepage. This acts as my command center for the day, with everything I need to succeed at a glance. For example, and if you follow my mouse, I can see that I need to review the RFM, or the recency, frequency, the monetary for Rachel Morris today. Now, as well as a plethora of dashboards that you will see here available, I use these as a way to keep my goals on track. Now, my first order of business is to drill into the donor LIBOR report so that I can actually see within this report who have donated last year, but unfortunately not this year. Having used spreadsheets in my previous roles, this report view is very comfortable, with familiar features like sorting my report by maybe the average gift amount. I can also add additional fields. For instance, rather than seeing the date of the last gift, I actually want to know how many days it's been. So days since last gift. Let's add that in. Now, as part of this process, on building or editing the report, Salesforce's free learning platform, Trailhead, is always available if I ever need to build my own reports in the future. I can also quickly change this report from a detail view, maybe into a high-level arching understanding of where most of these donors are sitting, be it donors or major donors. I can also add these really quickly into an appeal that I may want to use for a reactivation campaign. Now, with over 70 pre-built reports and dashboards out of the box, I can repurpose the time used normally to build reports on building better relationships with my donors to prevent them from being lapsed donors. On the topic of campaign management, within the Nonprofit Success Pack, that is robust and also a breeze. With campaign hierarchy, I can build segments based on the previous gift amounts that we can see here. And because the data is all stored in one source of truth, I can also easily see the ROI of my campaigns. Less time on building reports to measure the success of these campaigns, and more time on building those relationships, and less time chasing lapsed donors. Now, down the track, I've received a donation from Rachel Morris, for instance, for her appeal slip returned. Now, there are a number of ways that I'm able to enter donations into the Nonprofit Success Pack. Today, I'm using one of the apps available through the App Exchange, which is Salesforce's marketplace to extend functionality. Entering in Rachel's supporter number, this will automatically populate her details, save me having to manually entering them one field at a time. You can also see that the campaign is automatically allocated as well as part of this data entry process. So now that I've actually added this, for instance, into my database, I also recall earlier that Rachel needed to have her RFM, the recency, frequency, the monetary levels reviewed on her record. So let's quickly use this chance as a way to also thank her for the donation by going to her supporter record. The global search bar in the Nonprofit Success Pack is the Google of Salesforce, shall we say. A great example to locate records. So let's type in Rachel Morris. And with Einstein, that's part of the search bar. It's natural language personalization on those searches. It just gets easier for fundraising users like myself to locate these records when I need them at a time. Now, with Rachel's record, it provides me with everything that I need to know about a supporter in a single view with that donor 360-degree experience, allowing me to see all the important data in that one page. Everyone who shares the same address as Rachel will be grouped together by what we call the household accounts. So we can see, for instance, Rachel and Ross live together, and we can easily pivot their information by hovering our mouse over it without having to drill into the record as a high-level overview or snapshot of what the household record would look like. And at the same time, because of the fact that we combine everyone into a household, that also allows my organization to save costs on the direct mails by sending only one letter the way that the household wants it. On the right-hand side, as you can see here, I can also see a history of activities with Rachel to help my team stay on track of that relationship with her. So let's really quickly log a call, for instance, to thank her for the donation. Oh, pardon my apologies. I had that planned, but I actually got a wrong link. So let's quickly say thanked Rachel for, whoops. Sorry, my dog is now repositioning herself on my lap. Right, thank Rachel for her donation. Save. And just like that, you're able to capture that information on your supporter record, and so that the entire organization understands what is the level of engagement with Rachel Morris, as an example. And if I scroll down a little bit more further, this is now the area that I can actually utilize to review her recency, her frequency, her monetary. And these are part of some of the 60+ roll-up summary fields that are available out of the box in the Nonprofit Success Pack. This allows us to have a snapshot of Rachel's giving trends, and more than just the recency, frequency, and monetary, we can also see, for instance, the first gift date, the average gift date, the last gift date. Some of these are information that you may have had to manually calculate through Excel spreadsheets in the past. I definitely know that for a fact, going through my previous experiences working with nonprofit organizations. And we can also utilize all the out-of-the-box reports to combine these fields to help save time to understand, our cohorts better, or to build more detailed recency, frequency, and monetary for my marketing campaigns, as an example. I can also, if I want to, build my own customized roll-up summaries specific to my organization if the ones that are available out of the box don't meet my organization's requirements. Thinking again how I can free up time for building more relationships with my supporters and spending less time chasing those lapsed donors. And with that, that concludes how we can quickly get started with the Nonprofit Success Pack. So if we just go back to the slides for a second, just to quickly recap, what we just saw is how we got started from the command center to quickly view a pre-built report of lapsed donors, to easily track the success of our campaigns with a user-friendly batch gift entry process, finishing up on a single view of our supporter. There's my dog, giving me support. And what may have taken hours to achieve in the past, reduced to a matter of minutes. So please join us. I really apologize. Ernie, please. Thank you. Please join us in early November for episode 2 of our 3-part series, stewarding those recaptured donors to become regular givers through a marketing lens, as well as early December for the last episode of our series. Thank you for your time today, and I'll pass it back to Fiona.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Yang and Mark. That was a really great demo. So everyone, I encourage you to add your questions at this point and we can put them to the Salesforce team. I might just kick off with a question. I'm just thinking about people who are completely unfamiliar with Salesforce, and something that I have found as a Salesforce user in the past is really helpful is the kind of Trailheads and Trailblazer community. And I know as a way of kind of starting to investigate and research Salesforce, and I know that we'll send out some Trailblazer links after this. Can you just explain to people what Trailblazer and Trailhead is and how it supports Salesforce and its users?
Sure. Yang, do you want to go or shall I go?
I'm happy to try and answer that
question.
Yeah,
go for it.
Yeah, sure. So I mentioned earlier about Trailhead. So Trailhead is the online learning platform to basically understand the ecosystem of Salesforce. So that's something that I'm going through myself, as I only joined the business only just about 3 months ago. So if you're ever unsure about the functionality, you want to have that high-level arching how-to, the Trailhead platform is a very easy way to basically learn, and the Trailblazer community is basically like, shall I say, a community or a forum of Salesforce users. So if by chance you may have a difficulty completing an exercise, and this is an example that I had just yesterday myself. I was trying to complete a task and I wasn't really sure, but I definitely knew I could utilize the Trailblazer community to try and find the answer or the errors of my ways. So, if you wanted to learn how to use the solution or the platform, Trailhead's the place to go. And if you have any questions about the platform, the Trailblazer community is the support network, shall we say.
Absolutely. They are fantastic resources. So thanks, Yang. We've got a question here from Mimi. How long does the Salesforce how does the Nonprofit Success Pack link with Salesforce Marketing Cloud?
Good question. So basically there was the slide there of the platform and the marketing and engagement aspects. So basically, because it's all sitting within the same platform, all of that great rich information that you've got about your constituents, your donors, etc., would all be available to be used and consumed within your marketing and engagement processes as well.
Great, thank you. I've got a question here about access levels. So as a fundraiser, how much should I be able to customize my own dashboards? I find that I don't have a lot of access and I'm unsure if it's something I should ask my administrator for. So we've obviously got a Salesforce user there that needs a bit more access.
So I can try and answer that question. And I think often the way I see it is that the admin is the gatekeeper, so to speak. It's a database owner. It is like their child. So they may feel that sense of protection. So if you want to have the ability to have that greater sense of self-service, definitely have a chat with that admin and just say that the reason why you want to have that flexibility to create your own dashboards, your own reports, is so that you may take less time away from their day-to-day tasks as an admin. Because as an admin, there's a plethora of tasks that they need to do to make sure that the data is cleansed, the data is clean. And if by chance a a fundraising manager or relationship manager asks them, can you build this report for me? Does another to-do list, so to speak. So I think it's really valuable to have that candid conversation with the database administrator and just say, I would like to have this access, and I believe this is the reason why. So then that way, I'm a strong believer of, you teach a person to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. So I think that's definitely something that we may not be able to address directly in this particular session, but definitely has a bit of homework. Maybe buy some chocolates, take them out for a meal, so to speak, with the database administrator, and yeah, see if you can twist the arm a little bit there.
It's a good answer, Yang. I certainly found when I was using Salesforce that it was a bit of a process of trial and error. I'd go to kind of create something in a report or something, and I would find I wouldn't have access, so we'd tweak my access and so on and so forth. So as you say, always a conversation with your administrator. We've got a question here. What does the term lightning mean?
Yeah, cool. So that's just basically our terminology for our updated user interface. Basically, we had a classic layout, and then we updated it with what we call the lightning. So I think that's probably the most frequently used term for what we mean by lightning.
Yes, great. Question here, can I set the roll-up summaries myself, or does that need additional support? We're not really using these, but they look really helpful.
So yes, you can set up your own roll-up summaries. And if you're not sure how, Trailhead is the place to go. I literally also looked that up yesterday. So as part of my self-learning process, I was on Trailhead yesterday, learned about the roll-ups, how to build it, and I built some out for this particular demonstration as well. And again, if you're stuck, if the roll-up isn't performing the way you want, the Trailblazer community is a great place to have other users that they're not necessarily going to be Salesforce employees, so they're going to be more realistic with their answers, so to speak. So that might help answer that question. Yeah,
Trailhead is a really good first point, isn't it, whenever you've got questions about Salesforce. I'm just going to ask the question myself while we wait for any last questions to come in. You mentioned during your presentation the app exchange, which is obviously one of the beauties of Salesforce, is there's just an unbelievable number of add-ons that you can add to your Salesforce instance. But how can people discover what comes kind of out of the box with the nonprofit pack? Where?
Sure.
How would they
so
find it?
There is it might be coming in the email that comes after this presentation, but there is a website that we host called The Power of Us that has all of this information on. However detailed you want, it's basically there.
Yeah, fantastic. So that's the Power of Us website, and we'll put a link to that in our follow-up email. Wonderful. And just as kind of a last question, if no one has any more, obviously Salesforce is a really huge global company. Can you just talk a bit about kind of the team based here in Australia? Obviously, the majority of people watching this webinar today are based in Australia. So would the account managers that they speak to generally be based here?
Yes, exactly. I don't know if Chris wants to come off mute at some point, but he's actually my manager. He's actually on leave today and thankfully come in to help out with today's presentation. But yeah, we're all in Australia. We have an AE in New Zealand for any folks that happen to be in New Zealand. I'm actually based in Victoria, poor me, I know. And we have a lot of our team in New South Wales also. But Chris has just come on now as well to help out.
Thanks, Mark. Yes, great question, Fiona. All of your Salesforce.org account executives, your customer success team, your solution engineers, as the gentlemen have shared with you today, are all based here in Australia and New Zealand. We're spread across the country. We're trying to be as close to our customers and stakeholders as possible. We do still leverage the power of Salesforce.com and our global resources. So one of the really great things is if we don't have that capability locally, we can absolutely bring that expertise in across from the various parts of the vast Salesforce organization globally. But your day-to-day communication, your key contacts here at Salesforce are all based here in Australia and New Zealand.
Fantastic, thank you. Thanks so much for answering those questions. I wonder if in closing you could just go back to the slide where you're talking about your next couple of sessions, and then you can just show people what's coming up. So the next set, well, maybe you could just quickly talk to those, Yang or Mark, and then people know what's coming.
Yeah, sure. So I'll just quickly talk about it. So in early November, we are going to basically continue the story with Rachel, whereby we've re-engaged with her. So what can we do to change that from like an active donor to become an actual regular donor, regular giver going forward? So talking about sustainability, and that's a really important revenue stream for a lot of nonprofit organizations in Australia. So we're going to go through that and how we can leverage some of the marketing functionality that Salesforce can provide to achieve that journey, that nurture journey, shall we say. And then lastly, in early December, this is where we're going to close off this 3-episode series. It's like a television series. You can't miss episode 1, because then episode 2 and episode 3 doesn't really make sense. But then we're going to look at how we are going to change them from a regular giver to dwindling down that fundraising pyramid, so that they become those major donors, or they become those bequesters and so forth. So really highly active and highly engaged supporters. And that's where we want a lot of these donors, prospects and so forth to become over time. I hope that's a good preview to what's coming in the next few months.
Absolutely, that's great. Thanks, Yang. And that sounds like a really good flow of information. We've got a couple of questions, a couple of comments here saying thank you so much, and great information for people who are new to Salesforce. So thank you, Yang and Mark and Chris, for being with us today. And thank you everyone who's joined this webinar. We will be sending out a recording and various materials in an email next week. Obviously, we've got another Tech Thursday next Thursday, and we look forward to seeing you at the next 2 Salesforce sessions as well. So thank you so much, and I hope everyone has a lovely afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.